No, they never.
All right, here we go, folks. All right, so the board. And tell me when that second, and then auto for Andre.
Good evening and welcome to the Guilderland Central School District's 2019 Meet the Candidates Night. I am Andre Valverde and I will be the moderator for the forum this evening. This program is sponsored by the Guilderland PTA Council and produced by the high school's media department. The goal of this program is to bring forward the views of the candidates that are present here tonight. There are 3 candidates for the 3 available positions on the Board of Education. The candidates are Barbara Fraterrigo, Kelly Person, and Gloria Towle-Hilt. This evening's forum will be organized as follows. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 3-minute opening statement introducing themselves. Directly after this, we will begin our questions, which have been prepared by the PTA Council members. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer these questions. At the end of the questions, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. Questions from the audience are welcome and will be reviewed by PTA Council representatives. Tonight's proceedings should last about 2 hours. There will be no literature distributed. If you are all set to begin, I would like to wish the best of luck to all the candidates, and we will begin opening statements, starting with Mrs. Fraterrigo.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you for the PTA for hosting this as you usually do. I'm Barbara Fraterrigo. I might be considered the elder of the board. I've been here many, many years and have enjoyed every minute of it. I've lived in town since 1972. I raised 5 children, all of whom are functioning, self-sufficient adults, so I'm very happy about that. In my youth, I attended Emmanuel College in Boston, and I had a double major, one in biology and one in chemistry, and a minor in secondary education. Actually, I'm going back for my 55th reunion next weekend. So, while I've been on the board, I guess I've had a lot of experiences, all of which I've enjoyed. One of the things that I began in my early board service was on the Health and Safety Committee. And this was really a predecessor to all the safety enhancements that we've put into the district. It was sort of the ground floor of investigation, and I can remember when we made the proposals that the doors should be locked, there was a huge uproar in the community that this was just not Guilderland. But as we now know, times change and you have to do what you have to do. So I'm really, really proud of Cliff Nooney and our staff that have really done what they could. I think, as all of us know, nothing is perfect. If somebody really wants to do harm, the chances of that happening is still a possibility. But on the other hand, you have to do what you think is best. And I think the district has really done that. And one of the things in our bond issue that's coming up is a lot of safety stuff for our kids. So the other committee that I was involved with over many years is the Wellness Committee. Again, long before Michelle Obama mentioned that we should have more nutritious meals, Linda Mossop, our food services director, was way ahead of the curve in bringing forth, more fresh vegetables, wheat-type products, and all that. So again, our district has really sort of been on the cutting edge of a lot of things. Another thing that we sort of led the Suburban Council, and I think a lot of people in this district, was a committee that we started to address the bullying issue, which really wasn't a popular issue at the time. But we as a district developed what's known as the Alveus method. And, we've begun to address what we know is a problem. Again, it's not going to go away, but I think our staff is more sensitive to it as a result of the program. And as I said, I'm just delighted that I've had the time to serve, and I'd like to continue serving. Thank you.
And now, Mrs. Person.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank you for having us here today. To tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Kelly Person. I was born and raised in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I came to the Capital District to attend SUNY Albany. While in college, I enlisted the Air National Guard in Schenectady, and I've remained in Albany ever since. I'm first and foremost a mom. I have three children, or three small children, soon to be four. To tell you a little bit about what I do, I am sort of a jack of several trades in the military. For about 18 years, I was an LC-130 navigator. I got the opportunity to do things that I didn't even know existed, like flying daily to the South Pole and literally walking around the world in one breath. It was an amazing time in my life, but when I started a family, flying to the far reaches of the world was no longer a priority. I was selected to be an Inspector General for the 109th Airlift Wing, and I'm now the Director of Complaint Resolution at the organization. During the regular work week, that's on the weekend drills, I'm an administration officer. I create and implement policy as well as manage the budgets for approximately 820 full-time service members. And on occasion, I get tagged to be a liaison officer at the Office of Emergency Management for Domestic Operation Activations. In fact, that's where I've been this whole week, in a bunker at the state office loop managing the taskings for about 200 service members filling sandbags around Lake Ontario. So when people ask me what I do, it's not always an easy answer, but I'm proud to be in service to our state in whatever role is needed. As far as why I'm running for the position on the school board, my wife and I specifically chose to purchase our home in Guilderland because of the school district. My wife graduated from Guilderland schools, and it's well known that it's one of the better districts in the area. Shortly after we purchased our home, we started a family. We now have 5-year-old twins that are about to finish kindergarten at Guilderland Elementary, a 3-year-old at home, and we're about to have our 4th child, who's due in July. I'm taking the opportunity to run for school board because with my children just entering schools, I'm 100% vested in ensuring that they receive the quality public education that all children deserve. I believe in investing and advocating for our children at every opportunity, and I think the more we invest in our children, the greater our community will be. I believe I'll be a successful board member because I have extensive experience creating and implementing policy, 22 years in the military, experience leading people, and I've experienced managing a $60 million personnel budget as well as a $4 million non-personnel services budget for the organization that I work with during the week. I understand how to manage limited resources while always advocating for more at every opportunity. I think I'd be an asset because I have experience leading small groups of people to take on big problems. I believe in collaboration with all the stakeholders in working towards our main goal. I currently advocate every day for service members, and I look forward to directing that same energy to our school district and our community.
Now finally, Mrs. Towle-Hilt.
Thank you, Andre. Towle-Hilt. Thank you to the PTA Council for hosting this evening's program. Although there are 3 of us running and there are only 3 seats, I believe that this kind of a forum does provide an opportunity for all of us to introduce ourselves to you, especially people who are new to the district who probably don't know Barbara or I. So thank you for doing this tonight. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk about specifics during the question period, so I just wanted to use these beginning remarks just to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm seeking a 5th term on the board. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I know you can't tell because I've lost my accent. And I came to the Capital District to attend the University at Albany, where I majored in education. I've been a resident of Guilderland since 1983. My late husband, Bob, and I raised 2 children, 2 wonderful children here. Both Laura and David benefited from the excellent education they received at Linwood, at the middle school, and at our high school. Laura is currently a music teacher in North Colony School District, and David is a senior systems analyst at the University of Vermont Medical College. He and his wife, Mary, live in Burlington, Vermont, and they have my 2 joys, 2 little boys, ages 8 and 4. Needless to say, my car knows the way from Guilderland to Burlington. I don't have to do anything. Bob and I first met and began our teaching career together at Farnsworth, so we didn't know each other. We met at the first department meeting in 1971. We had very wonderful and fulfilling careers as 7th grade teachers. Bob taught language arts for 32 years. I taught social studies to 7th grade for 37 years. I also had some wonderful opportunities during those 37 years. I had the opportunity to be one of the founders of our enrichment program at the middle school and spent 5 years developing that program. And then another point in my career, looked for something new to do, I got involved with the at-risk kids, and so I helped set up that program for the at-risk kids and ran that with other staff for about 5 years as well. So I've had a very rich and wonderful experience. The district has supported my husband and I through our entire professional careers. They gave us a leave of absence to teach in Africa for 2 years, where my daughter was born. So we spent 2 years in Zambia, Central Africa. We came back much richer for the district. They knew we were coming back because we love this place. But they supported us every step of the way. Needless to say, we have deep ties into this community and to the Gilliland Central Schools. When I retired in 2007, my friends had no problem convincing me to run for a seat on the Board of Education, mainly because I felt that kind of gratitude to what I had been given, and I wished to give something back, and this was a way of giving back. And that wish continues to today. I believe that my career as an educator and my 12 years of service on the board give me unique insights into the vision and goals of our district. I have always felt that the core of education revolves around relationships, whether we're talking about the critical relationships of student and teacher, teacher and parent, or the important working relationships between the district office. I'm on a number of committees, Business Practices and Communications Committee, and I enjoy committee work a great deal. We're very fortunate to live in a community which values education, demands excellence, and is willing to provide us with resources. And it's for these reasons I'm running for the board again.
And now we will go on to our PTA written questions. The way this will work is after I ask the first question, it will start with Ms. Person, and then for the second question, we'll start with Ms. Towle-Hilt, and so forth. So this first question is, what would be your first priority for next year, and what are your goals or vision for the next 3 years? Mrs. Person, whenever you're ready.
My first priority, well, I'm just trying to get past the next week right now of getting elected and getting the bond vote passed. So, assuming I really, really hope that the bond vote gets passed next week and our budget as is, and I'm really looking forward to moving forward with the things that were included within that bond vote, as I think it's really, really important to get the infrastructure and safety issues addressed. As far as moving forward from there, I'm really looking forward to speaking with the teachers and the parents and the board to find out what their priorities have been and what they should be in the future. I think there's multiple things to address for the next years. To say what the most important thing would be kind of challenged right now, but I think making sure we keep our policies strong on inclusion within the school district, and keep our focus on smaller class sizes for the next year, or at least maintaining the class sizes that we have. I think it's really important. I think it builds good relationships with the teachers when we have smaller class size and more participation from the children. But I don't have any immediate agendas or concerns at my point. I'm really looking forward to getting involved in learning what the concerns in the community are and addressing them when they arise.
I'd like to pick right off what Kelly said. I think that's important. Not having an agenda, it can be a good thing as well, because being on a board is really being a team, being on a team. So we have 9 people, plus we're led by our superintendent and our assistant superintendents. We have PTAs, that help us, and we have the unions that give us a great deal. So we work as a team, and being a member of a team means listening to each other, finding out what's important, finding out from the community, as Kelly mentioned, from the parents, from the students, and then moving forward from there. I'm hopeful that we can work as a group. The 9 of us can use the resources that we have to, over the summer, set our own agendas, set some goals for ourselves. But me personally, I don't want to set those goals because I think it's something that we have to work together with, because we're going forward as a team, and that's how we make things work here. It's always been that way. Shared decision-making has been ingrained in this district, and it's something that I think very highly of.
I think one of the initiatives that, again, we have begun exploring is the early start time for teens, for our high school students. The research is absolutely phenomenal that it is best for kids. And we have developed a task force that will be sharing this information that we've gathered with our community, hopefully educating the community on the benefits of a later start time for teens. And I just hope that this is, again, one of the things where we're on the cutting edge. A number of school districts, Bethlehem, Schenectady has already changed, Glens Falls has already changed to a later start time. Niskayuna is seriously exploring the issue. I believe Averill Park. Again, we have been on the cutting edge of so many good, positive things for our kids and for our community at large. Because if the kids are successful, your community is going to be successful. We go back to this bond issue. If you don't maintain your buildings, people don't want to come, because if you have deteriorating buildings, it just doesn't work. One of the concerns, I guess, that I would have over the next 3 years is just addressing not only the inclusion issue and sort of studying that to see if it really is helping kids at all levels, or do we need to look at something else? I have lived through so many trends in education, particularly with math and things like that, that I think some parents have also experienced, that again, our staff has been phenomenal in exploring these issues, studying them. If they're not working, then they're very happy to let them go. So again, working on this later start time for kids, I think, is very, very important. And as I said, maintaining our academic excellence. Thank you.
And now, our second question, starting with Mrs. Towle-Hilt. As a Board of Education member, how would you approach making decisions that would potentially affect you or your family? For example, redistricting, the closing of a school, or labor union negotiations.
Well, the most important thing is to involve people. All the stakeholders need to be involved in the decision-making. I don't believe in, top-down decision-making or people from the outside coming in and giving us, what the solution is. I think it's something that has to be developed. We need to look at pros and cons, and sometimes we're kind of blinded from where we sit as to what the cons might be. So it's a good idea to bring people in that might have a different perspective so we can understand from their perspective where we might be heading. We recently engaged this past year in a system known as Thought Exchange. Our superintendent came across this at one of our conferences, and we were really amazed about it, and we've used it already. It's a way of involving many, many people in the community in responding to what they think regarding certain issues, and then gives us input so that we can make better decisions. So I think the more you involve the stakeholders and get the opinions from them as to what direction we should move, the better our decisions will be.
I think one of the benefits of having children out of the district is that it sort of frees you up to really be there for everyone. I think both Kelly and Gloria have mentioned that you're really not there for your own interests. And all the time that I've served on the board, the thing that I have attempted to do is listen well, hear the voices of the people, hear the voices of the teachers, the kids, their parents, because as Gloria pointed out, to be successful, you have to have a collective mentality. You really have to gather the thoughts and the opinions of all the stakeholders, and it's really, really critically important to do that. We have a phenomenal history here in this district of the shared decision-making, whereby people have an idea, they come forward to their building cabinet or to their principal, and it works its way up. We have two prime examples of what's happened just in the last couple of years. Kids at the high school raised the issue of class rank, and we listened. They did all the investigation. They went through their building cabinet, presented, and that was changed. This year, again, they brought up another issue. And again, this is from the grassroots up, where they feel that it's not the best thing to have the kids that are 95 and above sitting on the stage, because they pointed out that, if we're all the class, then we should all be together. And as one of the moms pointed out, sometimes you can't see the kids up there. So as I said, our district is really good in listening to folks and making changes if they're needed. Thank you.
I'm going to echo what Gloria and Barbara said. I think the main goal of a board is absolutely to listen. I think it shouldn't be, we shouldn't be making any sort of decisions in a bubble. We should be listening to the parents, the teachers, the teachers' unions, the community, and then running by solutions by experts as well. I want to hear their side of the story. I really want to hear from everybody, because I certainly don't know everything about most anything. So I can't even begin to make a decision on something until we hear from everybody, and how it will affect secondary and third things down the line for years to come. So that's how I would approach any sort of decision that's going to be made. Again, just echoing, listening to all the stakeholders involved.
Beginning with Mrs. Fraterrigo, what do you think your role is as a member of the Board of Education?
I think my role mainly is twofold. It's a leadership role in the sense that I've been there a long time, and I'm very patient. I'm very honest. I love listening to people and reaching out, not just to the PTAs, but to people on the ball fields and the grocery stores. The community is really, really important. We may have the best of ideas, but we may not be able to afford those ideas. So we have to listen to a broad spectrum of people, and I think I have a phenomenal relationship with a whole plethora of different types of people with different interests, and I think leading by example of being kind, being patient, listening to folks is probably the best gift I can give to the district. Thank you.
So I'm the newbie. I'm the baby. I'm not even on the board yet. So my goal, my role would be there to listen and to learn, really. I can't tell you I have an answer for everything. I can't tell you that I even know exactly how everything is going to go, the processes the board takes. I'm there to learn the process. I'm there to ask questions. And one of the things I often do in my job is I'm always the person that ends up asking the questions that nobody else really wants to ask. You have to bring up the uncomfortable questions of how it's going to affect, like Barbara said, that you implement something here, that's fantastic, but you might have to take something else out here. So I just want everything to be crystal clear and transparent of what's going on, and make sure everybody's on the same page. So I'm a question asker. I'm going to be, and it might be helpful to the board because people have been on for years, maybe still are afraid to ask the question of how this really works. So, because they've been on forever, or they've been on a term, and maybe they didn't learn about that. So I think that kind of will be one of my roles, to bring those things to, not be afraid to ask those questions. I'll take the hit for not knowing the answer, and maybe everybody else will learn because of that.
I think no matter how many years you're on the board, you're always a listener and a learner. I taught here for all those years. I do not ever assume that I know what's going on in a classroom today. I trust that I'm not there, so I need to listen to the people that know better. I think I see the 9 of us as a team. And just like on any good team, each person brings some strengths. And some of us have weaknesses that, we don't like to recognize, but it's there, and so we kind of support each other. You do have people that are more vocal, and then you have people that kind of are more the sitting back, quiet thinker types. And we all need. One thing we worked on this year was putting together a handbook for our board to kind of get us all on the same page, to get us thinking in a similar direction. I think that's important if you're going to be on a team. I was disappointed that we didn't get to our final goal, which was to set up some strategic planning ideas, but, you know, we still have time. We'll get there. But that's what I mean, kind of working together and moving together. And to do that, it takes time, it takes listening. And those are the key ingredients to making a successful team, and so that's how I see myself as being part of that.
Question 4, starting with Mrs. Person. What do you think are the strengths of the Guilderland Central Schools District? What would your role be in protecting and building upon these strengths?
Like I said before, I think the Guilderland School District is a phenomenal district. Just sitting through, listening to the review of the budget and the diversity and the graduation rates and really how well the school district is doing with educating our children, I think it's just phenomenal. I love that we have the resources available to our students. I'm really looking forward to sending my kids through, straight up through high school. I think we have phenomenal teaching staff. I think they really care about our students. I think that's a huge asset, and I think we have a PTA that's involved, and I think it's great. I like how we're on, like Barbara said, we're on the forefront of lots of different things, like start times, like co-teaching. I was very interested in hearing about those things during the board meetings that I was able to attend, and it really was interesting. I loved hearing about when the kids came in and talked about the different programs, the civil discourse class and the robotics class. I just thought it was phenomenal to see how involved and what the kids have been up to nowadays, I guess you can say. The robotics was really kind of fascinating. So I think we have a really strong education school district here in Guilderland, and I'm looking forward to maintaining that into the future through keeping what we have going and looking to the future as far as creating a vision to sustain what's going on now for the future.
Spring is a great time to be a board member because you get to go to all these neat award ceremonies and things like that. Today was something. I started the morning off up at Bleecker Road, I think it's called, up in Altamont at our new solar farm. Okay, 22 acres of solar panels. That's providing us with 58% of our energy. I mean, we were up there with kids from the elementary and middle school celebrating ribbon cutting and everything like that. That happened today, and then in the afternoon I got to spend at the Guilderland Public Library looking at the art from high school, the juried art and the awards that were given out. It's just an amazing, if you get a chance, get over there because it's going to be there for a while. But, you know, this is only one day, two things. So what makes us so great, you ask? It's almost like a stool, I think of, and it's three little things kind of holding up our district. One is the community. Without a community like the people that live in this town that support us by, you know, voting the budget in, by coming out when we need them for whatever the thing might be, signing up for committees, helping us on facilities committee or this committee. We have a very supportive community. It values education. Second, I'd say our staff, administrators and teachers are committed. I mean, I just got done this week working with hiring, and we're doing another interview next week. We look for those people who are committed individuals, committed to education, committed to our kids. And we have both. And finally, we have great parents who raise great kids. I had the wonderful opportunity as a teacher to bring my students down to work at a soup kitchen in Albany, which I continued to do myself. And one time I brought the kids down, there were 14 seventh graders. They worked, you know, serving the whole lunch. And this one lady who lives in the South End neighborhood, she walked out and she goes, "Where do these kids come from?" I said, "Oh, they're from my team, my class in Guilderland." She said, "You grow them good in Guilderland." And boy, I mean, we get great kids because we have, you know, parents that are so supportive of the district as well.
Well, that's a favorite question of mine. What are our strengths? We could go on forever. Not only are we good in the arts and music, sports, but the leadership that's given in those different areas is phenomenal. If you take the sports teams, so many of them, I would dare to say the majority of them, actually end up with, academic awards. Regan has, again, been on the cutting edge and developing leadership skills for his athletes so that they then become role models and leaders, at the high school. A team of them usually goes away to Lake George for leadership training. Then they come back, for the following school year. And again, it's the idea of instilling respect and responsibility in our athletes. The solar farm that Gloria just mentioned is another thing. Again, Cliff Nooney, our building director, started this project in 2014. Took 5 years. Remember I told you patience is a virtue. But it's online now, and it was the most phenomenal sight to see this morning. Another thing that we do that is sort of unique, we have what is called a PM school. Kids that sometimes get in trouble come back, they're out of school during the day, but we still give them the opportunity by coming to PM school to actually keep up with their schoolwork and not fall behind. So again, it's a great thing that we do, and again, we're doing it for kids. The teachers in our school district are as good as they get. Again, willing to try new things and work collaboratively, with each other and with the parents and with the kids. So I think we have a great school district.
Next question, starting with Mrs. Towle-Hilt. How do you plan to be an active Board of Education member, representing your community? What do you think your community is?
Well, I don't know the boundaries, but it's pretty large because our buses have to go many, many miles. I think being a board member means being out there. I mean, I attend as many events as I can for students, talking to parents at them. I'm an active member of my church over in the west end of the town, St. Madeleine Sophie, so I'm always talking to people there. Working with students still, I'm a volunteer, but I run the soup kitchen down in Albany, and Farnsworth Middle School sends kids down there twice a month. And so I'm constantly in touch with the students and with the teachers, and trying to listen and kind of pick up on what might be issues for them, or what's going well, be there when times of celebration, and be a good ear when there's times maybe we're not celebrating, but we're looking for solutions to problems. So I think in that way, as a board member, you become more in tune with what's needed within the district.
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. How do you plan to be an active Board of Education member, representing your community? What do you think your community is?
Well, actually, as Gloria pointed out, our community is the entire school district. We, as a board, have been very sensitive to not only our seniors, but our veterans in passing board resolutions, to give them tax breaks when we could. All the parents, all the teachers, all the administrators, again, it's the art of listening and being sensitive to the needs of all, and then that famous balancing act of what you would like to do with what you can afford to do. So there is no one segment of the community that is more special than another, but it's the collective that really matters in running a school district. You really have to listen to people and listen to their ideas. Sometimes, people out of the mainstream of education can bring forth an idea that say, oh, geez, let's take a look at that. So again, there's no individual little hamlet that you represent, but you represent all. Thank you.
So, being an active board member to me means being involved on the board, obviously involved in a specific committee, however you want to get to be, however you're going to end up being on in your roles as a school liaison and so forth. But outside of the board and even outside of the community, I think being an active board member could also mean advocating at the state capitol for more funding for our students, or, organizing more involvement from the community on the board, or to coming to the meetings or whatever. I don't think we need to stay within our actual physical lines. It could mean, looking out, being out in the community and building partnerships with other organizations that would maybe help with funding for whatever. So outside the standard school board, being active school board member, coming to meetings, doing your duties and being part of that organization, I think we could get outside it and be a part of the larger community in the state and work to advocate for our students that way as well.
And now this next question, starting with Mrs. Fraterrigo. Without respect to cost, if you had the power to make any one change in the school district, what would it be?
A pool.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
We are one of very few school districts that doesn't have a pool that can teach kids a life skill that they need for the rest of their life. And I have wondered for years, why that is the case. And my second priority would be an expansion of the middle school auditorium so that they could actually put on quality plays like we do at the high school, because what they do with the limited stuff that they have available to them is phenomenal. And that would be, I guess, my second wish list. But and the third, that would be a dream come true. But we have some citizens, again, that have brought this forth to us, and that is a turf field for our athletes. I was at a lacrosse game last night for my grandson, and they played it at Union College on the turf field because, as you know, we've had a lot of rain this year. And so many of their games, had they not had access to that field, would have been canceled. And I know that originally when turf fields were developed, there was a number of questions about the health effects of the materials that were, in the turf. And I think those questions have been answered now. Again, it's expensive, but you asked me if you didn't have to carry about cost. First priority pool, second would be an auditorium, and the third would be the turf field. Thank you.
For me, so if there is no cost involved, I would just start from scratch and build brand new buildings that weren't built in 1952 or 54 or 56. Just start from scratch with the most state-of-the-art equipment that they have at the time. But I know that's not really the question that you're asking. But can that be my answer? No, I'm just kidding. And like I said, I'm very new to the school district. I'm very new to coming into this. I don't have an agenda. I'm not sure exactly what I would use my unlimited amount of money for. I don't have a priority personally. I think a pool would be great, but you have to maintain it. As long as that money kept flowing to maintain it forever and ever. I know I have a pool. It's a lot of work. But I think if I had to make a choice right on a dot right here, is probably to revamp all the rooms and get state-of-the-art equipment in the rooms. As far as the science rooms, I know that was a topic for a while. Like science, math, whatever we could do to get things at least out of the 1970s realm. I would start with that, just off the top of my head. Other than listening and seeing what other people's priorities are. If you were just to ask me, I think that would be a good start for our unlimited budget.
I think since, for me, education is relationship, I look to get more staff, more teachers, watch the class size thing, kind of get more adults' relationship with kids. That would be my first. I'm surprised you didn't mention, Barbara, but I would want to introduce foreign language starting in kindergarten.
Absolutely.
That's even before a pool for me.
Yes,
And I agree with Kelly wholeheartedly about, bringing up to speed and our facilities, our classrooms, our technology, and as much as we can, move that as far as we can. And the third thing would be, I'd like to see us get back to more hands-on type learning in terms of field trips. We lost a lot when we stopped taking kids out. You don't have to go very far, but history surrounds us here in this valley. And I used to take the kids back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We used to take at least 3 or 4 field trips a week, a year. Not that many, a year. And then we always took a final field trip at the end, and it was usually to Plymouth Plantation, and we went to Boston and did the Freedom Trail. And and we ended up at Fenway Park sometimes. Don't tell my Yankee fans. But I still get parents, now they're probably grandparents, that stop me and say, I remember that Boston Marathon you took us on, that trip you took us on. And the kids remember those experiences. So I kind of miss that. And I think we lose a lot when we take those things away.
So this final question is sort of a two-option one. It's 2 different questions. One's for board members and one's for a candidate. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Person. We'll ask the candidate question. Mrs. Person, please tell us about 2 different school or PTA-sponsored activities other than the community forums that you have participated in this year.
That's a very good question. I'm like, trying to think of anything I've attended has been a PTA thing. I can, does this count as one? This one, today. And I haven't been to any other ones, I'll be completely honest, that I could think of at the moment, other than our school, the field day, is that what they call it, when we bring in Mr. Giggles' field truck thing, right? So I've been there and looking forward to going again on next Wednesday. My kids enjoy that a lot, so I guess that would count too. Yes, what was the last one we were at where they did the kids love this dance thing on TV, and they go and do I can't remember what it was, but it was phenomenal. It was in the gym. Everybody in the whole place was, oh my God, it's come and gone already from my from my kids' queue. So we try to get to those the parties that they're having, and the movie nights at the school. I guess we've attended a couple of those, and then this would be my second or third event at PTA for my kindergartners.
Mrs. Towle-Hilt, which district committees have you chaired or belonged to, and what did that committee accomplish?
Well, I'm on the Communications and Business Practices committees for the board, and I've chaired them both. Business Practice, I think I've chaired 12 years now, all 12, and then a couple of times the Communications Committee. I think those are the only 2 district-wide committees. I've sat on a number of interview committees throughout the year whenever a board member is needed, because being retired, I have some more flexibility than others. A lot of these interviews are held during the day, so I've been involved with that. That's about it right now.
And the same question for Mrs. Fraterrigo.
Okay, I've chaired the policy committee for many, many years, and what we basically do is get all the legislative changes that affect education come to our committee through NYSBA, and we have to put them in policy and then pass them on to the staff. We have a very good system whereby once those things come to us, we first ask the staff, what do you think about those things? Because it makes more sense where they're going to be dealing with these changes in legislation, for them to look at it first, then it comes back to us. We were instrumental in establishing the first cyberbullying policy that NYSBA has really taken on as a pilot program. And we recognized that there was a problem. We addressed it. Other than that, it's mostly pro forma type stuff. things that come before us usually are either from NISBA, legislative changes, or they could come from administrative staff that has seen a problem or wanted some changes, particularly in the line of computers, that type of stuff. Fortunately, Ben is on our committee, and he is very astute when it comes to technology. And Damian Singleton, Dr. Singleton, really keeps us on track as to what is happening in the world of technology. In addition, to chairing that committee, as with Gloria, I've spent many times on staff interviews, for new staff. I've been part of the Late Start Committee, the Wellness Committee, the Safety Committee. So I'm a very, very active board member, and I enjoy every minute of it. Thank you.
And now we will advance from the pre-written questions to the audience-generated questions. There's one more. Okay. Hold on. Okay. So, starting with Mrs. Towle-Hilt, what is one thing you would not vote for, even if the administration said it was necessary? Do you have a red line?
Well, I guess being a board member, my sensitivity is to the tax rate, and being retired and on a fixed income. That probably kind of comes to the fore right away, that how far do we go? And being a board member, you know how important these things are. So you're kind of like the tension and being torn in both directions. So I guess that would probably be the one thing I'd really have to draw a line at. I don't know what the number would be because it would depend on what the year was and what was being put up, but I would probably that would be my last thing.
I think I just have to ditto that, because other than that, we're there to listen to all members and then form a judgment. But one of the questions that was asked when the teachers union asked us for an interview was, would you ever go over the tax cap? And I said, I don't think so, because all the messages that we've received from the community basically say, we can only bear so much. And unless things were really, really dire and we lost funding and all that we had to go and beg the taxpayer, I would say that would sort of be my red line, that you have to listen to the needs of the community.
I think everything is dependent on the situation. I can't sit here and say there's one thing that I would say no to. Absolutely not. I don't have anything in my mind that would be a hard no, because everything's dependent on what's going on at the time. Would we go for a tax cap supermajority? It depends on what's going on. Is the roof falling off? Is the, there's so many different variables that I couldn't say here yes or no as a red line in the sand. And I don't think we should have to without giving a specific issue with everything around it. So I think we're here to advocate for what's best for the students. And if that means, just taking Barbara's example, if that means going for the tax cap, then it means going for the tax cap. It depends on what the community feels, and it depends on what's right for the students at that time.
The next audience-generated question, starting with Mrs. Fraterrigo, is actually piggybacking off an earlier statement made by Mrs. Person. So, if you could start from scratch, what would a school of your design look like? Faculties, curriculum, etc. Does it look like our schools today?
Oh, no. Definitely would not like our schools of today. First of all, if we just destroyed all our buildings, I would want a common campus, more centrally located, so that our buses aren't lined up on this side street here, trying to get to all the other parts of the district. So I think I would start, there. From the standpoint of building, what Kelly mentioned, many of our classrooms are set up as they were in the 50s or 70s, when many of you actually went to school. What educators are telling us today is that collaborative learning requires different furniture. Now, some people might say, well, can't you just move the desks around? It apparently doesn't work that way, because in order to create this atmosphere, you really have to modernize your furniture as you do in your own home. So the classroom would certainly look different. The whole idea of chalkboards and things like that, now we have the smart boards and the whiteboards, and in fact, whiteboards have been replaced already. But you have to keep up with what these youngsters are going to use when they go on to college, when they go on out into the community, and you have to provide them with the learning tools in order to do that. So yes, it would be very, very different. We would be more centrally located, and but again, that's a dream that's never going to become a reality.
I don't have any preconceived notion of exactly what it would look like or what would be the best for our students. I would open up the conversation and talk to the educators, because I think they'd be the experts on what would be the best situation for the students, whether it's round circle rooms or what's best. Talk to the science teachers and ask them, I don't know, do you need beakers, or do you need some kind of whatever it is. I don't come from an education background. I mean, I went through public schools. I spent all my time in the military, so if you ask me how to fly an airplane, then I could tell you. But if you ask me how to build a school, then I'd start with the people that are here and talk to the experts and find out what would be the best way to go about doing that.
That's a good answer. Talking to the experts. I wonder, because when I was teaching 7th grade, they used to tell, the research would say, you're preparing kids for jobs that don't exist yet. So you're asking me to talk about a school. Things change so rapidly. I mean, next month it might be changing differently. So it's got to be something, whatever it is, it's going to be something that's going to be changeable. It's got to change with the times and with the demands. As Barbara said, education today is not about information, giving kids information. They can get information from their phone, from their watch. That's not about that. It's about teaching kids problem solving, collaborative work, team problem solving, things like that. It's not what definitely what I went through. So to say what that quote building would look like, I don't even know if there'd be a building, to tell you the truth, because everything's out in cyberspace anyway. So how would we be learning? How would we be communicating? Maybe we'd be virtually communicating constantly and all showing up in a virtual classroom. I love to think about stuff like that. I mean, that to me is really engaging. But so as we move forward, we have to keep that in mind, because when we move forward and make decisions and spend resources, make sure it's not for things that may be that's only temporary. We don't want to engage, put a lot of money into something that may be only a year or two. I mean, how quickly things change. So whatever we're doing, we need to constantly be looking at how useful will it be in terms of moving in a new direction or whatever we might need.
And now our third audience-generated question, starting with Mrs. Person. What is your definition of family engagement? Do you have any ideas on how to increase family engagement within our district?
Well, this is my version of family engagement is getting involved. Here, like this is my personal way of what I want to do to help the community and help the school district. I think it's different for every family. I happen to be the one that wants to be there at the table making decisions. There's some people that want to come to board meetings and talk about, let us know what's going on, and then, let us figure out kind of how we can address their issues. Some other people's family engagement is watching the board meeting on TV, or coming to the PTA movie nights, or whatever it is. So I think community engagement for everybody is very different. It's very personal. We love going to the events that we were talking about. It's great. I love to meet the other parents. I love going into the classrooms. We get invited often to come for, you know, birthday parties, or we had a great parent observation half-hour morning, small part of the day. But it was great because I love meeting the different parents in the organization. And for some people, it couldn't, you know, community engagement could be just following what's going on Facebook, or whatever it is for you. So I think there's different ways for parents to be involved, and sometimes they just can't, you know, and that's okay. So I think for me personally, for our family, I'd like to be the person that's going to be able to, you know, be the flag person on the soccer field, or whatever it is. So that's what I'm going to do personally, and as our kids progress through the school, and this is what I'm doing personally to kind of get engaged with the community here.
I think the key word is invite, invite, invite. Don't stop inviting. I think, as Kelly said, every family has got its own situation, own, you know, expectations of what it can and can't do. But I think being invited is important. I also have noticed that things I've gone to where there seems to be more of a presence is when there are student demonstrations. Like today at this art exhibit, there was standing room only there. You know, parents come out to see their kids work. And I've been to a number of middle school classrooms where the teachers, you know, have done projects, and then they display them, and then parents are invited in, and the parents go to see their kids. I mean, that's important. Guilderland parents support their kids. So if the kids are at the focus of whatever you're doing, then the parents will come. So I think that's important. And I think providing, as Kelly also mentioned, a variety of ways for people. Sometimes just inviting to help out, you know, at an evening type thing may be easier than coming in during the day. So having a variety of ways to invite people in, I think, is important as well.
I think one of the things that some of our principals have done is just have like an open house for an hour or so on a lunchtime type of period, or an hour before school, where parents and kids can just come in, talk to the principal, just share a donut, a cup of coffee, or a glass of juice. And I think as a school district, we encourage our administrators to be warm, to be welcoming, and to have these things that you mentioned, you know, that have things that the parents want to see that their children have done and have accomplished. And that will draw the parents out at least, you know, 2 or 3 times a year. The PTAs do a phenomenal job in reaching out to parents. As I think Kelly pointed out, you know, sometimes the parent can't physically come to the meetings, but they're more than willing to, you know, bake some baked goods, or to make some phone calls, or maybe just staff a membership table, just, you know, once over the course of the year. So again, we, I think, have multiple opportunities for our parents to become engaged. And as we all know, the more engaged the parent, the better the result for the child. So again, we encourage that, and you see the positive results when that happens.
And now, our final audience-generated question, starting with Mrs. Towle-Hilt. What is your future vision for the district?
I don't know if maybe it's still future, but my dream is for us to have a strategic plan that we engage together, parents, students, staff, board, together, and develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we dream together, sit together, talk together, get on the same page together. And I think it would just be a phenomenal thing to accomplish. That's my dream.
I think that's the dream of everybody on the board, that we, as a team, develop a vision for the district. And we tried doing this a year or two ago, as I recall. And we did not have the participation of all the state groups that you really have to have. I mean, parents have to be on board, the community, the teachers, your administration, the board itself. And it takes a lot of coordination and a lot of will, but I think we'll get there.
I'll echo the same as my fellow folks here. Sounds like there's a working group in the near future would get kicked off. I don't specifically have the vision. I have ideas, but I think it would be a great opportunity to kick off or restart this vision plan or working group, or however you approach getting this done. It sounds like it needs a little bit of oomph to get going again. But I'm interested to hear about how far it's gotten in the future, or in the past, and how we can maybe start getting it back in gear and present something in the next couple of years. It'd be phenomenal.
Thank you. At this point, we will hear closing remarks from the candidates, starting with Mrs. Towle-Hilt.
Well, I'm here because I want to be on the board for a 5th term. So I hope I've spent this evening giving you some ideas about my thoughts about education, my thoughts about being on the board. But I'd just like to use my few minutes, because I know I'm going to see that card soon, to say that you've received this pamphlet this week, I believe, in the mail. I would just ask that you take a little time and look through it. See the information, read the information, see what you're voting on and what the data is, the supporting what's in here. And then if you have any questions or doubts about anything, get online, email us, or pick up the phone and call about it, because your vote on this is extremely important to me. So I ask you to please take the time to look at this. A lot of information is in here. And I just ask you to do that. And thank you very much, and thank you to the PTA Council and to you, Andre, for doing such a wonderful job.
Now to Mrs. Person.
Well, thanks for the opportunity for us to come speak here tonight. What I'd like you to take away from this evening and my candidacy is that I'm not coming here with any agenda or issue that I have a desire to address. I'm here because I feel this is the best way to make an impact on the schools in my community. I'm not one to sit back and contemplate or complain. I feel the best way to affect change is to be at the table, bring different experiences and ideas, and then put in the hard work to advocate for what's needed. I think you may have seen tonight that I don't come to the board with any promise that I know all the answers. I can't even say that I know everything there is to know about what I'm about to get into. What I can say is that I will advocate for our students at every opportunity and do my best to address the hard issues head on, even when it may be uncomfortable. I'm looking forward to diving deeper into the issues presented here tonight, doing some research, and speaking directly with the different stakeholders. I believe that our educators are the engine that drives the ship, and that it should be listened to first and foremost, because they truly are the experts when it comes to educating our youth. Thank you to Gloria and Barbara for their longtime service to the school board, and for coming here to share your thoughts and experiences tonight. And I'm looking forward to joining them to keep, and our other members over here, to keep the Goodland schools going in the right direction. Thanks.
Mrs. Fraterrigo.
I just want to take a few moments to thank the PTA again for the great work that you guys do. Years and years and years. As I look at the faces that are in the audience here, you've been around almost as long as I've been around in many cases. I really want to thank the community for allowing me to serve the many years that I have. I have enjoyed absolutely every minute of it. I feel that we have done the best that we could with the money that we had to provide a great education. As I mentioned in my introductory statement, I had 5 children that went through Guilderland. They received what I would consider just an unbelievably phenomenal education. I want that for the kids of today. I really, really do. And I have really invested blood, sweat, and tears in trying to provide that for our kids. So I hope that the next 3 years, we'll continue to be able to do that. But again, thank you so much for having faith in me, and Gloria too for a long time, and now Kelly bringing a young, fresh perspective with kids in the schools, which is great, to the board. Thanks again.
This concludes tonight's forum. I'd like to thank all the PTA Council members and all of those who assisted in bringing this program to the voters. This program has been recorded and will be available on the GHS Media YouTube channel. Thank you for coming, and remember to vote next Tuesday, May 21st, at your local elementary school, starting at 7 a.m. Do it for the future of the students. Have a good night.
Thank you.